an overview of our support services, so Timely Care, Single Stop, Veteran Services, Great Expectations, TRIO, OADS, our Office of Accommodation and Disability Services, tutoring and academic support, and library services. On this list, are you all familiar with some of these services? All of the services? None?
What's Timely Care?
So Timely Care is going to be our first slide. We're going to talk about that. So Timely Care is our 24/7 free mental telehealth for students. It is included in your student kind of package. It has access to counseling services, and it's all for free for you. So you will be prompted when you do SDV 100 to kind of interact with Timely Care and create an account, correct, Chris? Yes. And then also on our support and resource page on the college, there is more information about Timely Care. So that is laurelridge.edu/community resources or laurelridge.edu/wecare. So when you go into Timely Care, you're going to use your student login information for your Timely Care account. And when you go in there, you have 6 counseling sessions that are included free of charge. You can have referral for psychiatric care, Talk Now 24/7 health support, health coaching, and those are kind of all the clinical services that you have. And then you also have access to supportive services like self-care journeys, which is like educational material on specific topics on wellness, peer support groups, and then a Be There certificate, which is like a training to support other students with their mental health. Do you have questions about Timely Care? So if you need help accessing Timely Care after your SDV module, how many of you have met with your academic advisors, know how to book appointments and navigate? Everybody? Okay. So if you need help with Timely Care, you can book a student advocacy and resource support appointment, and that's with me, and I help you get your Timely Care set up. And Single Stop. Do you all know what Single Stop is at the college? So this is also accessed on that community resource page, so laurelridge.edu/community resources or /wecare. It goes to the same webpage. So Single Stop is a benefits screener, and it helps you screen for public benefits like SNAP, WIC, free and reduced lunch programs, health insurance options, utility assistance, and federal financial aid. And then it also matches you with community-based services based on your zip code. And you can see the list is legal aid, food pantries, housing assistance, transportation, all these kind of services there. So the screening process for Single Stop. So it takes about 10 to 15 minutes to do your Single Stop profile. You can self-screen or you can complete an assisted screener with me. That is also in the student advocacy and resource care unit and Navigate. And you can rescreen as your circumstances change. So maybe you are starting the academic year and you are financially well, you are secure, you have all of the support you need, but then something happens during the semester. You can rescreen. And then you are also provided a toolkit with next steps for applying to services that you match with. And every student that creates a Single Stop profile, I get a notification of it and I will give you a text message, reach out with my booking link to book an appointment with me to either help you finish the profile or go over your screening results. Do you have questions about Single Stop? No? Okay. So Veteran Services. So Veteran Services, you are linked with Veteran Services through the onboarding and new student process. They have a presence at the Fauquier campus and Middletown campus. They do advising. They have lounge spaces on campus. They advocate for their students. They provide career services. They assist with specific veteran foundation grants and scholarships, and they do check-ins during the semester with their student population. So if you think that you should be receiving veteran services and you haven't, let someone at the college know and we'd be happy to connect you to the staff. Any questions about veteran services, or you're like, I should be getting that? No?
Cool.
Great Expectations. So this is a program for students who are or were in the foster care system. They also are linked during the new student process. So when you take your advising match survey. You would be linked to the Great Expectations advisor. They do case management advising, they provide gas cards for students, and then also emergency funding and grant opportunities. These aren't guaranteed, but we do encourage you to apply for those in this program. Any questions about Great Expectations? Okay. Turn.
And we spent. Okay. So have you all heard of TRIO services before? Yeah.
I
A little
have.
bit about it. Someone has. Okay. So this is students who are eligible for TRIO services. So this is if you are a first generation college student. So does everyone know what that means? So that just means you're the first person in your family to attend college or higher education, as well as low income, and then students with disabilities. So this is something that there is an application process to be part of the TRIO program, and they do have a limited number of seats, and it's mainly at the Middletown campus, so campus we're at right now. But they have specific academic advising available as well as wraparound services. So there are different workshops that will be on different skill buildings. So some of that can be note taking or just different skill buildings. And then part of the TRIO program is cultural enrichment, which can include going to events. So they'll sometimes go to the theater and stand and see different events. So a lot of different events, as well as career services, and then state and getting connected with state and regional scholarships. Next slide, please. And then they also have there's a lot of stuff that TRIO does, like I said, wraparound services. So it's different grant aid as well as financial literacy class. So going over essentially what we were doing earlier with that activity is just like, okay, how can we budget this? It won't be as specific with things, but making a budget. There's also TRIO specific tutoring. So there's math and writing tutoring. And then being part of TRIO will also give you access to the TRIO lounge space, which is where you can go and use some of the laptops, the computers there. And then you will have a weekly check-in with your advisor just to see how you're doing with progress in your classes and keeping up with everything. Any questions about TRIO?
Yeah, if you're interested in TRIO, I encourage you to apply. I was a TRIO student here and it was very helpful to me.
How would you apply?
So you can find that application on the webpage. If you search TRIO on our website, it will pull it up. And now, my office. So the Office of Accommodations and Disability Services. So this is one where if you had an IEP or 504 or something similar throughout high school or grade school, then it's called accommodations at the college level. So to get connected with accommodations, it's a little bit different than grade school because it's mainly a student-driven process. So it's one that you all have to initiate. And part of that is, so hoping everyone already here is enrolled in your classes, you've already met with your advisor, you're enrolled in classes. So we got the first step is out of the way. But then the next step is just submitting the application for accommodations. And it's just gonna have some of the basic information of your name, your student ID, and then just putting in what your disability is, and then if you received any previous accommodations. And the next step is supplying supporting documentation. And this will typically show, it'll just need to show the proof of disability. So it's helpful to just have the name of the specific disability and if it came from a general practitioner or someone. And we will also accept an IEP or a 504. And that's something that's not all four-year schools or not all disability services offices are the same with what documentation they will take, but an IEP is sufficient for us. And then the last step is scheduling an intake, which is where you will meet with me and we will discuss what the accommodations you are eligible for your classes. That's just the last step. And then you won't have to go through this application process again unless it was a temporary condition or a temporary disability. So an example of that would be if it's post-op or it's just post-surgery or you've injured your leg and just need some temporary accommodations in place. And right now we use a software called Accessible Information Management. So this is where the application is housed as well as all of the accommodations that will be approved. And we are getting a new software next year, but the setup should be pretty similar to where you're just going to log into the system. And that's where you're going to request all of your accommodations for your classes. And then that will send an email to your professors. So it's something you all have to initiate, but the system itself will do all the grunt work of putting stuff together and then sending the email. Any questions about this?
What kind of accommodations do you have for autistic people?
For that, so it depends, because they are determined on an individual basis, so some of them, a common accommodation we have is access to the testing center, so that could be a distraction-reduced environment, so there aren't as many distractions in place. And then some of it can also be getting access to the PowerPoint presentation beforehand, so that's something that you can follow along with the lecture. But it's one where it's hard to give a general overview because it's specific to the person. Yeah, good question. What other questions? No? Okay, next slide. Okay, so we went over the main piece that we have, which is the accommodation letters. We also have a social club that we call it's Bond Club, so that's the Bureau of Neurodiversity, and it's something that is open to actually all students. You don't just have to be part of the neurodiverse population. It's one where we typically meet in the Trio Lounge, as well as we have a Zoom link available, and it's honestly a lot of fun because you never know which topics people are going to come in on, and we typically, everyone has a designated time for a topic they want to discuss, and then some people, they've even made, I think they've done presentations on different games, or they did a review of Sanderside's videos, and it's just like, okay. So if you want to join in the fun of Bond Club, or I should say the chaos, please join us. And we also have a sensory room that is available on campus if anyone is overwhelmed or they're having a panic attack or just needs some place to do a private place to debrief. We have that available at the Middletown campus. And then another part of OAD services is after you've completed the intake and academic accommodations, you have the option of switching your advisor to an OAD specific advisor. So it's someone that she will have all of the background knowledge of any other advisor, but she's also going to have access to what accommodations you have, and she'll have a lot of different recommendations. Her name is Whitney Scruggs. She's amazing. She's been an advisor for a really long time, and she's got a lot of knowledge. And then something else we help with is facilitating conversations, and that's part of the advocacy. So if there's a certain point where you maybe don't have the best verbiage to use with sharing with your professors the needs you use, we would be more than happy to help you with that conversation. Any other questions about these?
Do you have to have a formal diagnosis as documentation, or, because it can take a long time to get?
It can take, it's, if you only have a previous one, or I would say submit an application and then we can go from there. Let's see, because it can be a case by case. If there's something from a general practitioner that goes over symptoms of stuff or just stuff that's reported, that would also be helpful.
Could that like replace and would work in place of a formal diagnosis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because yeah, we know that getting a formal diagnosis can be a long process.
And it's a privilege.
And that's a privilege if you don't have health insurance. Sorry, but yeah, that's trying to be flexible, and there is some from a lot of the disability services organizations, there's a lot on what can be required with documentation. So we're trying to be a lot more lenient. So good question. Any other questions? Okay, so tutoring and academic support. I hope you all have heard that we do have free tutoring available, and I want to emphasize free because there have been some people who've reached out and said, how much does it cost? And I'm just like, nothing. If someone's asking you to pay, incorrect. No. But yeah, so we got free tutoring support for classes, and it's similar to how you set up an appointment with your advisor or with Tiffany, and it's going to be in Navigate, and sometimes you can just select which class you want the tutoring for, and then that will get you connected with a different tutor. And they also have paper review services available where you can submit a rough draft you have of a paper beforehand, and then someone will look over that, and then you will meet to discuss things that you can improve on the paper and update. And then the campus tutors are available online or in person, but then we also have a system called BrainFuse, which this is on your My Laurel Ridge page. It looks like there's a person and then there's some lines with different colors coming out of it. And that's one where tutoring, it's a lot more flexible, but there's a limited number of tutoring that you can do per month on there, and it's only available online, but that's also available if you aren't able to get in with a tutor on campus. Any questions about tutoring? Yeah.
Is there a specific place, if you meet your tutor in person, that you're supposed to go to, or would you just talk to them about where you'd meet?
That would be given once you set up the appointment. So yeah, there would be a specific place that they would give you. Anything else? And then last one, library services, because I wanted to make sure we know that the library isn't just about books and getting that stuff out. They have a lot of really cool things available. But yeah, so they not only have the physical locations at both their Middletown and Fauquier campuses, but they've got books, audiobooks, DVDs. They keep up to date on a lot. They have some recent movies that they have. So if you don't want to pay per view for a movie, you can just rent it out from the library. And then they're also available for research help. So when you're in your, I think it's in English 111, and you need to look up some research articles, librarians can actually help you with narrowing down which database to use and helping to find these different research articles or research papers. So they are really helpful with getting connected with those different resources. And so the library services, it's not only open to students, but it's also open to community members. And they also have, at the start of the semester, you'll have to get approval from your advisor, but they've got different desktop computer loaners. So you can get, they have a laptop loaner program as well as a hotspot loaner. So they can loan out if you live in a place that doesn't have good internet, but maybe still has good connection with, why can't I think of cell phones? Cell phone services, that's where the hotspot can come in place. And then they also have different desktop computers that you can use within the space, public internet, and different study rooms that you can rent out. So if you need a private place to study, the library is a really good place to go.
With the study rooms, you said you have to speak with your advisor on.
Or not the study rooms.
The desktop, you don't have to do that for the study rooms, you can
Yeah,
just.
you-
walk in.
Sorry, I mixed up a few things. For,
Okay.
I think it's only the first few weeks in the semester, it's the laptop and the hotspot. It's talking with your advisor about that need. And then I think the next few weeks after, because there's a limited number, so we want to make sure that it's getting to the people who need them.
Right.
And start, but yeah, that first one is talking with your advisor.
Sweet.
Any other
When
questions?
it comes to checking out resources, do you need to be a student with a student ID, or can you have, do they have an option for getting a library card?
Or they would have an option for getting a library card because it's gonna be, they are open to the community. But yeah, if you are a student, they'll just need your student ID and they can get that in. Sydney, how are we doing? I think we just have one more slide. Yeah, share these resources. And if y'all wanted to, I just need to get your student emails because I want to send you an email that's gonna have an overview of the services that we went over, and it's gonna have direct links to all of them, because I know navigating our website can be a little bit hectic.
I'm not sure, what is your email? Or
Yeah.
Laurel Ridge?
For my email,
I know that your, cause you said, please get. You
oh,
said,
so you're gonna have a VCCS email, so it's typically
do.
your username at email.vccs.edu.
yeah, I know that email, but yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure, it was because you had said, oh, I'd